director of Sisters in Purple, which is a domestic violence, gun violence, and community violence organization in New York City. I am also the youngest executive director of a domestic violence organization in our city. I also wrote 2 laws in our city pertaining to domestic violence. So today we talk about domestic violence. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as everyone knows. But for us in Sisters in Purple, every month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Every day we bleed blue, bleed purple, blue, because domestic violence doesn't discriminate. Domestic violence doesn't care that we have lives, we have homes, we have family. Domestic violence doesn't care about Christmas, Easter, New Year's, Thanksgiving, your birthday, Jesus' birthday. It just doesn't care, and it's here to discriminate, and we have declared domestic violence as a public health crisis. We're just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up on that. So as we know, we mentioned a few victims of domestic violence that are no longer here, who came from this specific community. And what happens when a domestic violence homicide happens in our community, right? It leaves our community a little confused to what just happened, right? We want to always educate our community so that they know that domestic violence is an isolated situation. This is not just a random person going around killing people. They have a victim, and that is their target. So today we have a panel discussion of a few experts and survivors of domestic violence. And I'm excited to be the moderator. I like moderating all of a sudden. I'm used to being on the panel. I'm not used to being the one asking questions. Y'all can come a little closer. Y'all don't know each other, but let's act like we like each other now. All right. I don't need you. No, I'm hyped right now. I'm feeling purplish. So first and foremost, we'll go down the line. Each one of you would say your name, where you're from, if you're a survivor of domestic violence. If you choose to identify as a survivor of domestic violence right now, please do. If not, it is okay, whatever makes you comfortable. Start off with Ms. Sisters in Purple herself.
Yes, my name is Shamara Kelly. I am the co-founder of Sisters in Purple. I am also a community organizer, and I am a survivor/thriver. I'm from, you can't hear me? No?
There you go.
No. I'm gonna do it again. No, what we would have done. My name is Shamara Kelly. I am a community organizer. I'm also a co-founder of Sisters in Purple and a survivor/thriver. And I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah. But my name Amir. I'm from Jersey City. I was married sick when I was young, and I can say I'm a survivor.
My name is Brittany Clark. I think y'all met me earlier. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I'm from Brooklyn, residing right now in PA.
My name is Amber. I'm from Miami.
I'm from Miami. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, Victory 05. And yeah, I would say I'm a survivor.
All right. So my first question to you guys, what is domestic violence to you? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What was your experience with domestic violence? All of them.
All of them. Domestic violence to me will be me, right? Because I'm a survivor. I came out in 2018. My domestic violence started at the age of 13 with my kid's father. It didn't end, like I said, in 2018. I went through the mental, I went through the physical, I went through the emotional, everything that you could think of, right? Down to having kids with the abuser, right? But now I want to talk about, just my children seeing that abuse as well and how much that impacted them as well. So for me, domestic violence is what I said, the mental, the emotional, the psychological, and it impacts children, right? In a way that we don't believe. Like I know for myself when I got out, I didn't realize how much it impacted them. So I started having these uncomfortable conversations, even for myself as their mother. They thought it was normal. So those are now things that we have to unpack. So just, that's the message I'm
Domestic violence to me is like, when you trap somebody in a situation, beat on them, and control them, and abuse them emotionally. You know what I mean? And speak all type of death into their life. Saying that, you know what I mean, you'll never be nothing without me, and just trying to take advantage of everything, you know what I mean, the innocence. You know what I mean? The message is, there's a lot that go with it, because domestic violence is heavy. You know what I mean? And it's heavy for a person that really went through it. And a lot of times domestic violence, like you think it's love, but it's really not. But just like domestic violence, like, you know what I mean, like abuse, you know what I mean, abusing the person that you say you love, you know what I mean, and when it's really not love. So that's domestic violence to me.
Domestic violence to me is like when you cause bodily harm, mental harm, financial harm, psychological harm. What was the other question?
What was your experience with domestic violence?
Let me just say, so they say that domestic violence targets everyone, right? So I am trans, I'm a woman of the trans experience, and it was kind of deep for me because I date these guys that, let me just let y'all know I'm still healing. This is my first time ever speaking about this. So I date these guys that's trans attractive, and when I say trans attractive, I have the aesthetic of a woman. So that's what they're attracted to: the breast, the small waist, the butt, you know, the female features of a woman. But mentally, they're not attracted to me, right? So I went through a lot of harm. I went through a lot of taking men off the street, bringing them in my home due to the lack of love, low self-esteem. No matter how I dress it up, because I can dress my ass off, right? But that inside was fucked up. And I was bringing broken people into my life, into my home. And I was getting abused. First it started off with the mental, then it started off with the physical, and in between that became the financial, right? They was walking me to the check casher, they was waiting for me to get off of work. I couldn't even believe that this was happening to me, right? It was happening. First of all, I've been in 3 relationships, and I didn't realize that I was in a domestic violence relationship until about 5 years ago. I've dated the same man in 3 different relationships because that's how sick my thinking was. My thinking was upside down, and I thought that I deserved it because I was trans. I had to reroute my thinking. So that's what I know.
Tears you down as a
the type of conversations we have to have, right? We have to have the diversity in the conversations if we're going to truly tackle, get down to the root of how to stop domestic violence, right? I'm in this field to end my career. I don't want to have a domestic violence organization. I think we should live in a world where there should be no domestic violence organizations. In order for that to happen, domestic violence will have to stop, right? How do we stop domestic violence? We stop domestic violence by education. If I can see it, if I know it, if I identify it, I can prevent myself from going towards that, right? It's kind of like, you know, when the stove is hot and your mom tells you don't touch, but you're not realizing, you're like, no, it doesn't look hot, I'm gonna keep touching it. It's not until you burn yourself that you're like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't touch that, right? What happened during that process of you realizing maybe I shouldn't touch that? You learned that it was hot, so it's not good for you to touch, right? So through education is how we're gonna help prevent domestic violence. And I wanna touch on something, because the LGBTQAI plus community has the highest rates of domestic violence, but it is not a conversation that is very common to have. People don't realize that in these relationships, they do have the highest. Why do they have the highest, right? Because we are teaching children that boys shouldn't hit girls, girls shouldn't hit boys. For some reason, we have stopped there, right? People who are part of the LGBTQ community are in relationships with same-sex relationships sometimes. So because of that, you told me I couldn't hit a girl. But you told me as a man, you told me I couldn't hit a girl. But now I'm in a relationship with somebody that also is a man. No one told me I couldn't do that. So do you see the way how it looks like, oh, this is gonna be okay, this is fine. You know, domestic violence for some odd reason has haunted me my whole entire life. I am a product of domestic violence. I'm born and raised in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. My whole entire family, every woman in my family is a victim of domestic violence. That's a big statement to say, that throughout generations, no one decided that this wasn't okay, no one decided that we're gonna put a stop to this, and no one decided that we were gonna put a name to what we were witnessing in these homes. And that's what we're here to do today. So I wanna talk to you, Brett, a little about the LGBTQ community when it comes to domestic violence. How serious do you feel that they take it? What do you think that we can do more to shed more light and bring more awareness to the community so that we can all come together as the ecosystem that we have created for survivors of domestic violence?
Well, I just want to say, like, having more forums like this and putting more people of trans experience on those forums. So when y'all think about these panels, just think about, can I put an LGBTQIA person on that panel, whether you know that they're going through something or not? Because I came to work today. I didn't plan to be on a panel, right?
I convinced you, y'all.
And a lot of people of trans experience, a lot of y'all hear a lot about these murders, and the first thing y'all think is, oh my God, they tricking people, this and the other. Most of the time, the trans person knows they're murdered, right? For so long, I lived in the house with one. I thought I was gonna die. I literally thought I was gonna die. And the first thing that comes up, because it's so funny that you said that, you know, our family members are taught, like, you know, we don't hit boys and we don't hit girls. But what about the trans people, right? So that's the first thing that comes up in my argument, is that you're a man, you're a dude. Like, it's horrific. You know what I mean? And I can't even explain half of the stuff that I've been through. You know, I've been drugged down a flight of stairs by my hair in the house that I put them in. I had a gun pulled out on me. The gun jammed, so I didn't get the bullet that day. I've gotten put out of homes. It's just so much that has happened, you know, and I'm still in my healing process, you know, but I want to just tell you the flip side of that, right? So I was a victim. Now I'm causing the abuse. That's the flip side of it, because I'm so angry. Like, I just look for a reason. I want somebody to say something to me so I can just release this anger, right? But I don't want to do 25, 50 years of life, right? Because this mind up here is kind of crazy. I may look good before y'all, but I've been through hella shit.
If I want to tap into what you just said, you said, now you're the person ready and willing to cause the harm as a defense of some people causing you harm. Now that is something that not people, they don't talk about this part of domestic violence, right? They don't talk about the part where the survivor now turns into the person that's causing the harm. Why do these things happen? These things happen because it's called reaction abuse. So if I'm steps ahead of you, I won't get the element of surprise when you now choose to attack me. When I was in a domestic violence relationship, I was 15 years old. I didn't think I was a victim because I fought back. So if I fight back, then I'm not nobody's victim of anything. And he would do things to antagonize me. He would get in my face, he would scream, he would use traumas on me, all of this, and I would react. My reaction of the way I was raised was to punch somebody in the face. You get out of pocket, you're getting punched in your mouth. And that's the way I conducted that relationship. Because I was not educated, because I didn't have the resources, no one in my family had these conversations. No one told me that this wasn't okay. We just thought it was normal, it's cool, they fighting, they'll be fine next week, they'll be back together next tomorrow, don't get involved. In reality, I was a 15-year-old screaming for help. And nobody helped me. 15 years old, I had no idea how to navigate this experience that I have no clue where to turn to because everybody thinks this is normal. So I want to pan it over to you because you are the youth. And we talk a lot about youth and prevention of abuse. Who talks about it when you're actually already in it? Right? What did you do when you realized I'm in a domestic violence relationship? Did you feel like you had outlets to go to say, can somebody help me?
Not really. My parents are older. My mom had me at around 39 when I got about 40. That's a whole different generation. Like I skipped the generation that my sister and something like that's really like who my parents would have been. So I feel like trying to go to my mom about like what's going on like between me and my dad is more like no, you don't go back on your dad. If you do something, you're supposed to get his like kinda you don't get to express yourself too much, especially in the older generation because that's what they went through, you know. They had to go off and down south, you have to go outside and pick your own switch. You like when you get in trouble, they go outside and pick their own switch like
You can pick your own switch.
they reap it. It's on the tree. It's on the
A tree branch?
Yeah, you gotta go outside.
It's a little scary that all I have this experience right now. about family violence, right? What is family violence? Y'all all just seem to have experience with family violence when we just talked about this switch. But that is a category that isn't also talked about too much, right? We don't talk about when your family are the ones that are causing you the harm. How do we now have those uncomfortable conversations with our family members, right? What does that even look like? When I started doing this work, I literally used everybody in my family as guinea pigs. I did the education, but then I had to use them so that I could see if it actually works. And at that moment was when I gave the women in my family, I don't want to say it was me giving them permission, but I was kind of giving them the green light to share their story so they can understand you no longer have to hide this. This no longer has to be a secret. This doesn't have to be the weight that's holding you down. And I actually witnessed the women in my family stand up a little taller because that brick was off their back, but they was like, okay, I can freely say this and no one's gonna shun me about it. No one's gonna shame me about it. No one's gonna tell me what happens in this house stays in this house and you can't share this information outside. So that's what we're doing. That's the ecosystem we're creating right now, right? We want our youth to be able to come to parents and say, this is what I'm experiencing, without a parent telling them, just be quiet. That's normal. I've been through that. That's nothing. Y'all got it easy now. Because those are some of the words that our youth are hearing when they are now coming forward and saying, this is not acceptable. One of our courses sisters in purple is we're unlearning what we know so that we can find ways of going about it because it's not working. It hasn't been working, right? Our government acknowledged domestic violence 30 years ago. How many of y'all over 30? 30 years ago. So think about the family and the traumas that come from a family when domestic violence wasn't addressed, not even the government felt that they needed to step in. It wasn't until wars were happening back to back to back that our government realized domestic violence is a problem. You want to know the biggest problem with domestic violence causes? It's so-called funding. New York City, New York State alone spends $8 billion, 8.3 to be exact, $billion on domestic violence. What do you think you can do with those $8 billion in our communities? So our government would rather spend money helping get survivors into shelters. They would spend money on policing because they consider that safety. So a lot of our domestic violence funding goes into the safety of the community, which is police. But in reality, the people that need that funding are going to be organizations that are boots on the ground. We are the ones that get to the victim before 911. We are the calls that we get their calls before 911 gets their calls. We get their calls before half the time Safe Horizon gets their calls. So this is the issue. Keep that number in mind. $8.3 billion is getting spent on domestic violence in New York City, right? When we talk about change, let's talk about how we can create that. Now I want to pan it over to Amir because you are our only male on this panel. And statistically, men cause the most harm. Why do those statistic numbers even are available for us? Because these are phone calls coming into our city, right? Men are not reporting their abuse. So our numbers are always going to be off. Don't ever let those statistics fool you and let you think that men are less victims of domestic violence because that is absolutely not true. We get our statistics from the calls that come into 911 and the domestic violence hotline. So men are suffering in silence. Amir, what are types of abuse that you feel are overlooked when it comes to men?
What was the question?
What is the type of abuse that he believes as a man is overlooked?
My first time going still a dope. Feel me? And I was so used to pain, I made pain my habit, so that was the person I moved so much in. So by me dealing with her, I never got the chance to speak up because I got so much she was against me. So a lot of times when she goes down in my face, I tend to like shout at this bird that's going to run up and do the thing. I mean, when you deal with someone, like a woman can destroy a man, especially if the man makes you not all the way together. Because a lot of men make me show them on the outside, but mentally, I'm not really ready to start. It take anybody, that's on both sides, but not any man. Because we all deal with some type of trauma, we all deal with some type of abuse. Like we never take the time to do it like from it. They just start talking about, you know, black people don't work there. You know what I mean? I would rather you all day like I'm good. And we know you are. We just pretend good. I mean, when I went to that mess around, it's like, I almost crashed out. There's something back in my mind, like, but it was a fight. I mean, it was easy to get in it, but it was hard for me to get out. And I was one person when I tried to get away from it, I was back up. And the more I went back, things would get better, it got worse. But then once you're in a situation where it gets worse, it's hard for you to come out because now you feel like you can't live with us. You start to think like, no man, it's a waste of time. I can't solve those things. But then once you hit somebody, now man, you feel a person like, well, I'm never do it again. Because they become a habit. And by me going through that, bro, man, I realized like it's not good for me. I gotta be more to show them my way and how I get. But at that time, I was weak about it. Because not all men strong. So I made the point that things that I went through that made me want to get that. But there was a moment in my life where I was weak. I mean, I was a person that holds so much in and being in a relationship when you take so much. And you gotta know, I was a person that holds so much in and when you came out, you can't away with it. I lose everything. Because I never knew how to like really speak up for myself. I was a person that always took that in a relationship, I took everything in. And then once she said one thing, it triggered, it led to me, you know what I mean? When you hold so much stuff in, you ain't really healing. I never had that opportunity to let it out. You know what I mean? I never had that, you know what I mean? That you know, like certain you can't feel your pain with everybody. I mean, I can't go to nobody and be like, I'm going through this because they gonna use it against you. And you know, we don't trust nobody. I can't say like, yo, let me tell sis, because once we go through a situation, it can be the little thing. I can be your friend, and you ask me to hold something, and I come back looking for my money, and you just turn against me back, and the next thing you know, you're going around talking about me, and I didn't really do nothing to you. All because I came back and asked you because I was like, with my money, you say you gonna give me back.
So I think one of the things we touched on that I pulled away was talking about childhood traumas and what happens when children no one addresses the childhood trauma, right? Because childhood trauma is what leads us to domestic violence. Unaddressed childhood trauma is what causes us to continue to believe that this is love because this is the type of love that we were taught. I want to talk about children that live in a home that have domestic violence in it. And I'm a parent with my sister. And you have children that grew up in a home where it was very toxic. They witnessed, they heard, they may have not seen some of it, but they definitely heard it. So I want you to talk about the kids' experience and when they were old enough to actually verbalize to you what the background
I was understanding. I was like, wait, like, not understanding, like, how do you know? And a lot of things hurt me. I think, a lot of things that they say, they already like that situation has made them even more fun. Like, it was just like, wow, what happened? And we've seen it, right? My oldest, like, we've seen it from the time I came out, because the kid's father for almost 2 years, my puppy love, somebody that, teenager, whatever the case may be. So for my son, he was angry, and angry at this, more so angry at his father. Once again, those were conversations that I had with him, but I also put to the side because I felt like that wasn't it wasn't my issue to talk about at that time with his father, right? Those are issues that he could have with his dad. I also like kept him away from him for a while. Like I felt like for them mental, right? Not for them mental, but my daughter, like she had PTSD. She thought one day she saw him, like from after school, and it wasn't him. So it was just like now it's like, okay, now I have to, like the Anthony said, they have to unlearn what they know, right? And I had to also let them know that I was gonna protect them by any means necessary. And I had to make sure that they knew that. So what they saw in the household, I'm not gonna lie, like my son was like, Mom, she was weak. Like that's how he felt. Not knowing, like, like, yeah, like my mom was strong, and that she wasn't going to do things, but these are things that they thought. Because they always, get my mother or things of that nature, or their father took it out, right? So I also wanted them to understand, like, their feelings towards him and my feelings are two different things. Somebody that I want to celebrate, or also someone that there was bad. So I also try not to feel bad. But reality is, like, they saw a lot of things, so there's so much that I can really say, right? So I want to fast forward to now, because my oldest is 16, and he is going through some mental health issues, right? And a lot of these things, it has came from the home, right? Not only that, he now has a relationship with his dad, right? And that, it kind of looks like the same, but at the same time, my son, he's also a person that's very hearing this conversation. He's reaching out to this person. He's telling him, how he feels. He's also letting him know, like, listen, what you did for my mother, I don't know. But he's also at the age where he's like, but I know that she had a mental health issue, right? He's knowing these things, right? But he's also at this age where now he's having these mental health issues that has not only came from the TV, but with him growing up and not being, with his father not being around. As far as my daughter, she's not having it. Like, and it's because of what I went through, but it's also like, listen, I've also taught them both boundaries, right, at a young age, because they had no choice but to learn these things, because they saw it. So yeah, let's go to the next one.
ACS, my favorite subject. Because mandated reporting is a serious subject when we're talking about the youth and we're talking about how to get them services, right? We have had several workshops with some of our young adults, and one of their biggest concerns was they don't feel like they have an outlet even within the school system because they know that people in the school systems are mandated reporters. What does that mean? That means when something is causing this child harm, or they're even in an environment where harm is being caused, the school is mandated by our government to call ACS, Child Protective Services, whatever you want to call it, whatever state you're in. What's happening, or what we've noticed that has happened for the years, is that ACS were coming into the homes, removing the children from the harm, increasing harm to the woman or the victim of domestic violence, but also putting children in jeopardy, right? Because they're putting children in these homes, sexual assaults are happening, abuse is happening, and the cycle perpetuates of abuse, and we're just raising more generations that have to endure domestic violence. So as an advocate of domestic violence and a very strong leader when it comes to making sure that survivors are heard, survivors are represented, when it comes to ACS, she's about to go off, y'all, so I'm gonna give it to her.
I don't want to go off because I can all night, but it was intentional from me because I am a survivor that had to deal with ACS coming out of my domestic violence situation, and not only that, in my family, like a long time ago. So reality for me is that coming into this work, survivors need to know door. Not every survivor, every person that's been impacted knows that they don't have to open that door, that first door, right? So it's just knowing your rights, but also knowing that there are organizations such as Sisters in Purple, right, that can help you navigate that process. When you do get the door, that knock on the door. Okay, you gotta get your early defense. You gotta get your this and that. So I don't think a lot of people understand, like when they do intersect with NYPD, when they intersect with ACS, a lot of this stuff leads survivors to homelessness, right? Or one box that they check on that incident report could lead to ACS knocking on your door. It has happened. We help survivors navigate that system, whether it's ACS, whether it's family court. And it's because we're all lived experience, right? Like I said, I've been impacted by ACS, I've been impacted by family court. So it's just important for us to know that these systems also intersect and they cause harm. Period. And I think that's why I like to talk to that a lot, because a lot of people feel like ACS is just like the helper, you go to ACS, but no. Like they traumatize you when they knock on that door. They traumatize you when they come into your life. They traumatize you when they want to answer questions for your kids. I go on, but at the end of the day, I just want y'all to know, like, these services are not, you know, like, ACS is not here to help you all the time. They are here to break you apart, your family, traumatize you, whatever the case may be. But I'm also here to say that we can help you navigate that too. So I hate them, but.
So in Sisters in Purple, we created a purple system, an ecosystem, and it is with service providers coming together to help domestic violence victims in our city, right? Why do we create an ecosystem? Because domestic violence is very complex. One size did not fit all. That means safety planning does not go for every single survivor of domestic violence. It has to be literally molded to that survivor and their lived experience. So I want you guys, we are wrapping it up. I know we can have this conversation all night, right? Yeah. So I want y'all to leave us with something that you would love for a survivor of domestic violence. They may be in this room, or maybe somebody can take it back to them and say to them, what is one thing you would tell a survivor of domestic violence?
You're not alone.
Stay alive.
Speak out.
Y'all give them a round of applause because they did that. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I took this panel while I was sitting here. And they did amazing. Thank you guys for all your work. Thank you for your services. Thank you for sharing your experience with domestic violence. I know it's not the easiest, especially if you're just speaking. But anyone that feels like they would like to speak to us after the fact, we can help you. Speaking about your survivor story is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It is one of the scariest moments as a survivor of domestic violence to take, and that step we will take with you. So if you would like to come to us, if you need some services, things can be triggering in these spaces. So if you feel like you're triggered and you need some extra assistance, please reach out to us. We'll be back there somewhere in here while we wrap up. Y'all have a lovely evening.